Hello fellow Pacific Northwesterners and YouTube fans, this is Northwest Disaster Ready coming to you today to talk very briefly about the Oregon Resilience Plan and why you need potable water at home and what I have done to supply potable water for myself and my family. Now, we live with the Cascadia Subduction Zone fault right off our coast. This is a megathrust fault which is likely to produce or capable of producing 9-point plus earthquakes with sustained shaking that may last up to 3 to 4 minutes. This is a huge earthquake, and they expect this to basically knock out every public utility service. That's telephone, water, sewer, transportation, electric, communication, everything. So, I will go over this plan in another video. It's going to require it to be broken down into little pieces, so please bear with me as I get that done. In the meantime, I want to read you an excerpt from this plan. Now note, this is only from February 2013. This is very new. They haven't actually done anything in this plan yet. No fault on them, but they didn't know that they had to do this until about 20 years ago. So this is the research just concluded on what our needs are and what our risks are. So I will include a link to this below, and I hope that you click on it and read the entire thing because it has direct bearing on your life. Now, in here, on page 198, we talk about potable water supplies. That guy right there. This means drinking water. Stuff that you can consume so you don't die. In here it says, in the current state of readiness, water utilities would be unable to provide water from the existing distribution system. Communities would rely on emergency supplies for the first 1 to 2 weeks after an event, depending on location and on the condition of transportation infrastructure. Please note, they expect infrastructure for transportation to fail. Some areas would have no water during that time. Water for healthcare facilities such as hospitals would be severely restricted. Emergency water supplies would meet only subsistence needs, for example, direct consumption and very limited bathing. For the first 1 to 2 months, water would be delivered via tankers to small tanks and bladders distributed throughout the community. People would wait in line to fill their containers and then carry the water home. So, what they're basically saying is that depending on where you are when this happens, you may have no water for 1 to 2 weeks, or some very small amount of water after about 1 to 2 weeks. Now, the human body cannot survive without water for more than 3 days. We must have water. So, that said, I'd like to get into the system that I've built so that I have water. Now, you're going to see that very basically, the system consists of a 5-gallon bucket, 2 55-gallon rain barrels, some piping that's linked up to my roof, and a 275-gallon water storage container. So, this system is an amalgam of every system that I have seen put together by individuals and professionals on YouTube and in various countries, kind of put together into what I think is the ideal system. And I'd like to explain to you how it works. And if you have any questions, perhaps I can show you how it's built. So, the way this works, your roof collects rainwater during a storm. It runs into your gutter, runs into the downpipe, usually into the ground to be distributed to the sewer system. That's free water. And here in the Pacific Northwest, we know it rains. So, there's good and bad things about roof water. Roof water collects dust, carbon, leftovers, bird poop, various things that float around in the air and land on your roof. Don't necessarily want to drink that. So one of the first things you need to do is pre-wash your roof water before you store it for other uses. Now, how this system works is I've got screens over this gutter so that large chunks of stuff doesn't fall into the gutter, so I'm not filtering out, moss and things like that. This flows from this pipe, which I have disconnected right now for testing purposes, into that 4-inch coupling on top, which houses a mesh metal screen filter and a large filter for capturing bigger chunks of things on the outside, potentially leaves and other such things that may need to be removed if something gets past my screening system. Now, as the rainwater comes in, it will travel down these pipes into this 4-inch pipe here on the end. This 4-inch pipe is necessary for the pre-washing feature to occur. Now I've got a clean out fitting on the end on a 90 degree which is necessary for two reasons. One, I have to put a 3-inch, honestly, dog chew toy, because they're okay for dogs' health, and they float, and they don't break down very easily. Now, I'll explain the ball in a minute. But you put the ball in there, and you can use this to clean things out, and it provides a third function in that you want this tube to drain on its own without your intervention very slowly. So you just crack the fitting a tiny bit while it's full of water until it just leaks. And what this does is allows the pre-wash system to operate without your help. Now, suppose it rains. Water comes in, flows down the tube, fills this guy up, floats the ball back up the tube until it reaches this reducer. When it reaches this reducer, the ball, which is floating on oil and whatever else is on top of that water that's coming off your roof, it will seal this off and keep that in the tube. Now, the remaining water that's coming off of your roof will fill this pipe and go down here into this food-grade 55-gallon plastic drum. This little pipe here is a vent tube to allow the air to escape from the pipe as this tank is filling. And you can see there the filter that goes on top of the rainwater inlet. Now, as this tank fills, it's got two fittings on it. I've got a clean-out drain fitting on the bottom to just remove whatever happens to need to come out. And similarly, right above this band on the back side, there's another fitting which I can use to access the top 20 gallons or so of water if I need to. I use that as a gray water solution. This is great for car washing. You can use this for hand washing with soap, washing dishes, that kind of thing. So it's not bad to have around, but you definitely don't want to drink it, and you certainly don't want to shower in it or anything like that where you're getting it all over your skin. So, also great for toilet flushing. Now, this tank over here is a slow sand biofilter, and that is a much more complicated animal than I have time for in this video, but I will get to that in a future video. Now, once this tank reaches the full mark, water will flow back up this tube into here, and will go up to the next diverter. Now, at this point, the water has been pretty well washed. If there was any oils or films or anything that were on the roof since the last rainfall, they've been pretty well washed away. This will flow down this pipe, across this bend, which is always flowing slightly downhill, and into this tote. I don't know why they call it a tote, but they call them totes. This is a metal caged, food-grade plastic container, and I want to talk a little bit about this because there's several features here that are important. One, I have this mounted on a pallet, and under that pallet I have small gravel that's poured into the mud. And this is important because in the event of an earthquake, these things are going to move around, and you don't want it to break. But since earthquake movement is somewhat of an oscillation, if its ability to slide back and forth is unimpeded, the tank will likely survive being reinforced by the metal cage without rupturing the water supply inside. So the pallet cage is bolted to the wooden skid, and the wooden skid is able to move freely on the gravel below. Now, this is a key element of anything you're going to use for drinking water. You absolutely must have 4 food contact containers. You do not want to get one of these totes that was used for car wash chemicals or anything else. You will never get it all out. This tank has been scrubbed with dish soap inside, and then scrubbed and filled with a 10% bleach solution and allowed to sit for 3 days before draining. So whatever is in here is clean. This is the same procedure that they use to get these ready for food in them. Now, I have wrapped this entire clear tank in opaque black plastic. The reason you want to do this is if there's no access of sunlight to the tank water, any bacteria or microbes that may be inside, except for a very, very few, cannot grow without sunlight. So isolating this from the sun is a really, really good idea for keeping any kind of microbial growth down to a bare minimum. So this is water that would be perfectly acceptable to use to water your vegetable garden in the backyard, to feed your dog, to drink yourself after filtration. I would not drink it directly out of here unless it was my very last resort, but it is reasonably clean water. Now, I am going to build a shelter over this and tie some lattice work to it and actually grow some tomatoes on it, so it will eventually serve more than just an eyesore in my yard. This PVC piping here was just very simply heated over the electric burner on my stove until it became pliable and bent into the shape that I needed. And this fitting on the wall here is very loosely strapped to allow, as the fence and the tank move, for the pipes not to break. Now, all of these fittings are not glued together. That is because if the tank moves and the fence moves and the house moves, I don't want the pipes broken. I just want them to separate so that I can click them back together later. This may equate in some very small leakage during rainstorms, but it's a small price to pay to not have to buy all these things all over again, assuming you even have them available. Now, if this tank gets full, this goes back up to the third fitting here and then flushes down back into the city storm system. So here we have the pre-wash system, the gray water collection system, and the clear water system. These things together will operate to provide you with an extensive amount of water. 275 gallons of usable water can provide 4 people with 2 gallons of water per person per day for 35 days. That is a lot of water and is something that will keep you from feeling the pressure in the event of a major earthquake that damages our water supply system. Further, water will be like gold. You may have things that you need later, and if other people don't have water and you do have water, you can barter. This is definitely something worth keeping in mind. And I think at this point, the only thing left to do is to test this system. So, this tank has been full from a rainstorm, and you can see that the water system here has filled up. It is diverting as we speak over into this system. And I don't know if you can hear this. The water is filling this large tank as we speak with clear water. Now, once this tank gets full, as I said, this will go back up and divert into the city system. But at this point, that system is functional. This is fresh water, and I'm very excited to say that I have no leaks. This is Northwest Disaster Ready coming to you to talk about water supplies and the Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake. And I hope that if you like this video, you will let me know so that I can stay inspired to do more of them. Thank you very much.